Yep. Good morning, everybody. Super excited to talk about pollinators today. We have a special guest in the studio, pollinators. I released a swarm of bees in the upstairs office. I think some of my colleagues will be unpleasantly surprised.
What?
No, I'm kidding. I didn't.
Oh.
That would be pretty.
I know we have some downstairs.
Yeah. So. But we do actually have, I am going to show you some pollinator cocoons. Very excited for that. We're going to talk about what pollinators are, all the different types of pollinators, and how we can make our gardens better for pollinators. So you got a couple of minutes, grab your coffees, get comfortable, put your feet up, and let's get the buzz on pollinators.
Okay, we're going to mute the mic, and we'll be right back with you.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. It definitely feels like spring is here. In Calgary, anyway, I know we have people who do tune in from all over the place. But in Calgary, spring is here. Last few days have been cool. We did get a little bit of rain. Yay. And we're ready to go. I've been doing tons of things, a lot of fun things with Brandy. We went down to the Rotary Club the other day. Yesterday, I was teaching at Riverview School, teaching a bunch of kids. Wonderful. They got to play with worms and touch all kinds of good things. So really good, really inspiring. Spring certainly puts a spring in our step. And have you seen any pollinators out yet, Brandy?
I saw them in the tree lot. Okay, so
Heck
the
yeah.
tree lot is buzzing right now. Like you walk in there and
Yep.
you just see bumblebutts everywhere.
And butterflies.
And butterflies, that's
Yep.
right.
And butterbutts. Doesn't quite sound the same.
No, I didn't.
But yeah, exactly. So the pollinators are out. They're looking for food. And we're going to talk today about what encompasses a pollinator and what we can do to make things better for them. So we're going to move along. I got my notes right here, which are very carefully constructed. Basically, I just print out the PowerPoint. I'm a lazy man, and I like to make things easy. So, oh, and a couple of housekeeping rules. That's what I was forgetting. That's why I lagged there. That was on me. That wasn't a system. That you don't need to do a system check. If I just pause and stare, give me a few seconds, okay? It was a busy week, and it's Saturday morning. Coffee. So if we're talking about something and I'm not explaining myself, please interrupt. I will try and go better. Sometimes I can gloss over things, or maybe I use terms that aren't well known. Like one I'm sure I've used in here now that I think about it. Ladybird. So a ladybird is a ladybug, but I'm British, so I call it a ladybird. So anything like that, any comprehension, please interrupt us. Any questions you might have regarding your garden or any anecdotes you want to share with us, there will be time at the end for some Q&A.
Can I offer a side? So if you guys are watching on Instagram, you have that portrait video. So we actually have our live stream today on YouTube, over on Facebook, and our website, goldenacre.ca/events. You'll get a nice horizontal video. Feel free to join us in the chat. If you have any questions, we have that Q&A section as Colin mentioned. So I'll just collect all the questions and then we'll ask them at the end, unless it is comprehension. And then join me online too.
We are everywhere now.
We are everywhere.
And there's no sign up. I was going to dance to your song there. I was like, and then you stopped. That was an awkward dance. But remember, like, so we got rid of Eventbrite. I've already digressed. I haven't even touched it. But last couple of years, we did this through Eventbrite. So we kind of knew how many people, blah, blah, blah. And Brandy and I were talking, and last year especially, there were a number of people who had difficulty logging in on the occasion, and they couldn't quite make it work. And we brainstormed and we just said, okay, we're getting rid of all barriers to entry. We don't want them. We don't need them. This is open forum. It's not like we're trying to do this sneaky or private or make it exclusive. So yeah, we're super happy to be offering that. Like the podcast, we don't hide ourselves. No, we are easy to find.
Yeah.
So we always hear plant for pollinators, especially in the garden center. People ask us about that. How do I plant for pollinators? Every once in a while, it doesn't hurt to stop and think, why are we planting for pollinators? What's our end goal? So the number one reason is they need our help. Okay, these critters, these pollinators, and one thing I will address right now, wind can also be pollination. But in Alberta, especially, you do not need to plant for the wind. Okay, the wind is there. It doesn't matter what you have, there will be wind. So we're talking about living pollinators. So I'm not talking about rain or water, anything like that. I'm talking specifically living ones. And these critters are essential to our survival as a species, to our enjoyment, to our health. And they give freely. They're just doing their job. They're not really giving it to us. They're just doing what they have evolved to do. And they need our help. They have lost habitat. Massive swaths of farming that have gone with monoculture have limited their food. So these critters are actively looking for help right now. Colony collapse. Which can be caused by aphids and whatnot, and its entire hives collapsing. Massive news maybe 10 years ago, and I'm happy to report in doing some research from this, the US Department of Agriculture has released that colony collapse is actually lessening significantly.
Yay!
Yeah, every once in a while, right, you go online and you get good news.
Every little bit helps, right?
Yeah, so I can't, it was a significant amount. I think it was in 2017, 2016, there was a reported 80% of colony collapse.
Wow.
Last year, there was a reported 30%. Mm-hmm. So they're coming back, and they're coming back because we're helping. Yeah. Okay. Another thing is lack of flowers. A lot of people are not planting as many flowers. They're planting more veggies, which do have flowers, but not flowers like these ones in front of me. They're not as prolific. There's very much an end goal. And then overuse of sprays, especially pesticides. So these guys need our help. They increase biodiversity simply by going around and pollinating everything and making sure all the species have a chance to get seeds and to propagate. Another reason, selfish reason, I just touched on it, we want our veggies. Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't want to be out there with a Q-tip pollinating my tomatoes. I want somebody else to do it. I'm a lazy man. We've established that. I want the bees to do it. So I want my peppers and my tomatoes and my cucumbers and everything else that comes with it, my sunflower seeds, and I want that done. And the bees want to do it. It's a symbiotic relationship. It encourages more interesting gardens and design ideas. Instead of thinking very linear, we now go, ooh, what do the pollinators like? It's like grocery shopping for yourself versus grocery shopping for your family. You grocery shop for yourself, you're like, I like that, then you grocery shop for your family. You're like, I don't like that, but I know Jenny does. So I put it in the cart, especially Reese's peanut butter cups.
You don't like that?
I'm not a fan.
Oh, okay.
I think they're massively overplayed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I like it, but I'm just like,
I know, but
it's
it's just like if not believing somebody or thinking somebody was wrong was a phrase, I'm like, I think they're overplayed. You're like, yep, get on with the webinar. Thank God the webinar isn't about peanut butter cups. There is potential to control pests and diseases. I'm not really going to talk about this so much because it's not even a technology yet. But the University of Guelph have been doing work, and what they found are the bees are carrying pollen, and they're carrying all these microbes, and very harmlessly to the bee, they can actually start spreading things that'll help the plants resist pests and disease. So they are actually looking at bees as a biocontrol, and they're educational. I do tours with schools through Golden Acre, and we go into tree lot, and like Brandy said, it is buzzing, literally. And I'd say 50-50 in the class. 50% of the kids want to run away from the bees, and the other 50%, they either like them or they're curious. But we can educate them that bees are totally A-okay. They're not wasps. So what are pollinators? So pollination, very simply, is the carrying of pollen from one plant to another to fertilize that flower to develop fruits and seeds. Nearly every flowering plant puts out fruits. Some of the most aren't edible to us. The ones that are, yay, but some of the marigold fruits, we don't eat them, but they still produce a fruit. They still produce a seed. So what are the pollinators? And these are the big hitters. And we'll just go through the list and we can see where we get to. We have bees. We all know the bees. Butterflies, another one we all know. Moths. I got some exciting news about moths coming up. Mosquitoes. We'll touch on those as well. Bats, birds, beetles, a lot of bees. I feel like, what's his name from The Office?
Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. The bees, butterflies, bats, birds, beetles.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Battlestar Galactica. Bears. No, well, bears, I guess, could be a pollinator, but they're not really renowned. And if you have a bear, we are not building to attract bears to our garden.
No, we're not.
Other small mammals, think squirrels. So those are our big hitters, okay? And let's be honest, some pollinators have way better PR than others. Hummingbirds and butterflies, okay? Everybody loves them. Everybody. My mom, who was notoriously terrified of all bugs, was A-okay with butterflies and ladybirds. Those two were A-okay. I mean, she didn't want one on her, but they were A-okay in her garden. Every other bug was an enemy. It didn't matter in her mind. No. But those two were okay. Hummingbirds, who doesn't love the hummingbird? Okay. If you have a dead branch, leave it. Hummingbirds love them. Thank you, Myrna. Yeah, I've been saying that for 10 days now. Yeah. People tend to be scared of bats, beetles, bees, unfortunately. Most people don't like moths. Bug zappers. Bug zappers, they kill more moths than anything that's going to bite you, and moths are an essential pollinator. We're gonna talk about moths in a second. And there's full-on hate reserved for the poor little mosquito.
Yeah.
Okay. Yet, tie-in that I wasn't intending, but holy moly, does it work? Let's go back to our Reese's peanut butter cups.
Oh, no.
Okay. Without the mosquito, there would be 80% less chocolate on the planet.
No.
Yeah, the price of chocolate would skyrocket.
Yeah.
You wouldn't see it everywhere because mosquitoes only need our blood to lay eggs. That's not their food. Okay, it's a process to lay their eggs. They actually pollinate flowers. There's a picture of the mosquito in the PowerPoint covered in pollen. So mosquitoes are an essential pollinator. Now, don't get me wrong. I try not to kill them. If it takes a bite of me, I have enough blood to share. I don't really itch after them. So I know I am very alone in that category. It's a very lonely category over there. I also know mosquitoes In other countries, malaria and everything else. I get all of that. I am not here to be like, leave all the mosquitoes alone. One bites you, give it a smack for sure, but they are an important pollinator. That's all I wanted to address there. And all of these animals together are critical in our garden to pollinate. We want diversity. It is absolutely essential. We want diversity in the garden and diversity in our pollinators in order to have the best possible chance. And it's our job to support them, to help them, and to educate ourselves on what we're looking at. The amount of times I've heard somebody scream, wasp, and you look over and it's a bee, because they see the yellow and black and they hear the buzz and they go, it's a wasp. And I've seen people kill bees because they thought it was a wasp. I don't even kill wasps, but we're not talking about wasps today. Efficiency. So this is where I get to give a cool fact about the moth that I just learned about half an hour ago. Super excited. Not all pollinators are created equally. And what I mean by that is not every pollinator is going to pollinate every plant. So when we think about efficiency, it's a human term. Okay, animals do not think about efficiency. They try to be efficient to conserve energy and whatnot. But actual efficiency is there are so many times when we look at animals and we go, what's its purpose? Why does it need a purpose? We look at a flower and we go, what's its purpose? It just is. It's just doing its thing. We just get to enjoy it. So efficiency is a human constraint that we put on the natural kingdom. But when we are looking at it and we are using a term we can understand, such as efficiency, not all pollinators are created equally at all. And when we look at it and we go, oh, I have honeybees, okay, the one everybody knows, lots of people love honey, and we all know the honeybee, but the honeybee won't pollinate your tomatoes. It just won't. It does not eat the pollen on tomatoes, does not gather the pollen, I should say, on tomatoes. So if you have a ton of honeybees, you still aren't guaranteed tomatoes. You want other types of bees in your garden that are going to do your tomatoes. So we need that diversity. We need that broad range. It doesn't matter how efficient the honeybee is. If all you want is tomatoes, it's zero efficiency. The bumblebee, the native bumblebee, loves the native plants. So it's going to do better with your cranberry and your blueberry. So that's what we have to keep an eye out for, is helping all of them. We don't hyper focus on one type of bee. Biodiversity, when we're talking pollinators, when we're talking anything, is essential, but we're talking pollinators and it's key. Now, here's my fact of the day that I'll just leave you guys with, because I was super excited, but I realized saying it aloud, I might be nerding out a bit too much. The actually most efficient pollinator, because of course, as humans, we measured it, is the moth.
Why though?
The moth is because scientists in England took an assortment of brambles, okay, to make berries. And they measured how many flowers were being pollinated by what critter. So there were more bees than anything else. Okay, bees were the number one pollinator. However, the pollinator that was the most efficient in nailing the most amount of flowers in one sitting was the moth.
I just don't understand why.
Because if you look at a moth, right, you look at a butterfly.
Yeah.
The body is smooth. The wings are pretty smooth. You look at a moth, the entire thing is hair.
Oh, yeah, it is fuzzy, hey?
Yeah. And just like butterflies, they're going to flowers.
Yeah.
And the flowers stay open at night. So they are hitting all of those flowers.
Wow.
So moths are an incredible pollinator.
Yeah.
And so many people are scared of moths. We're sitting at night. We have light because we're humans. We like to have light around us. And the moths are flying and they might get in our hair and we freak out. They just want the light. Don't put up a bug zapper. Put up a brighter light 30 feet away from you, and that's where they're going to go because they're dumb.
No. No, but that's a smart way of doing it.
Like work with it. Like, we don't want to hurt them. That's why I will never, ever, I never have, never will put up a bug zapper. I shouldn't say that. You never say never. Like, some new bug might come out and the only way to stop it is a bug zapper. Then I might put up a bug zapper, but it would be unlikely. dirty pollinators, which I had to include because it's Brandy's favorite term.
Look at this little guy.
Dirty pollinators are awesome, but they are not efficient at all. So what the hell is a dirty pollinator anyway? It's not a bee in a trench coat. Neither was I. I surprise myself with what comes out sometimes. A dirty pollinator, what we call dirty pollinators, is anything, sometimes they're called messy pollinators. There's other nicknames for them. But it's any pollinator that pollinates, but that's not really its prime purpose. Okay, so beetles are typically, when we think of dirty pollinators, we think of beetles, but also squirrels are dirty pollinators. Other small birds that might be darting in and out, like little finches, that can land on the plant and it can support their weight and they get pollen on their wings, can be dirty pollinators. But beetles are by far the biggest category in that. They basically maraud around your garden. They just stomp everywhere. They don't care. They're like a toddler. Okay. You can say, be careful 30 times and the toddler is still going to run over it. That's what they do. They are going to get the bugs. The shortest distance is a straight line. And if there are flowers on that straight line, they are walking over the flowers. They don't care. But the great thing is that they're pollinating as they go. And a lot of them are eating the pests that are right there. So your ladybird, your ground beetle or sand beetle, they were the first pollinators. So before bees had even evolved, the pollinators were beetles. They're pretty crazy. Now, some of them aren't great because as they pollinate, they're also eating the plant. The lily beetle that nobody liked would pollinate just by its nature. All it's doing is hanging out on lilies and then it's going to more lilies. By definition, it would be pollinating as it went. It wasn't doing anybody any favors, but it was in fact a dirty pollinator. So you have all of these beetles that we see and we go, oh, I don't like that beetle. Oh, it's a gross beetle. It's trying to eat your aphids. It's trying to clean up your plants. And it's doing a bit of pollinating as it goes. It's multitasking. I love those beetles. Okay, they're wonderful to have in the garden. I'm going to tell you how to get more of them in your garden. And the other great thing is ladybirds. Okay, ladybirds, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. This isn't my picture, by the way, but I have actually seen a ladybird like that rummaging around in my plants, covered in pollen. It doesn't want the pollen on it, but it doesn't care. Again, it's going for a target. So pollinators are pretty freaking amazing. And I believe I read a stat and it said something like still 40% of pollination on the planet still happens only through beetles.
Really?
Yep. Yeah. And it's not necessarily plants that we have decided look nice or that we can eat. We're talking, again, don't hold me to these numbers. I don't have the facts in front of me and I can't remember every number. But there's something like 350,000 varieties of species, of angiosperm. And angiosperm is simply a flowering plant. Within that, 350,000, there are countless varieties. So the sunflower, think about how many varieties of sunflower there are. So there are millions of angiosperms out there. We eat a percentage of that, a small percentage of that. The rest are just trying to propagate biodiversity. Maybe it's habitat for something else. Maybe it's control next to a river, whatever it might be. And the beetles are the ones pollinating that. Yeah. So they're pretty rad.
Cool.
Yeah. So how do we plant for pollinators? And I know I've already beat this to death, but I'm going to do it again. Diversity. Okay. In diversity, we have varied plant height and varied bloom times. So you can see here, I got 4 different heights kind of going. I got different colors, different shapes of my flowers, all essential to have a big banquet. Think of it like this. Think of pollinators like people. If you invited 50 people to eat supper and you made the exact same thing for all 50 people, not everybody is going to like what you made. Some people might not be able to eat it because of dietary restrictions. Some people just might not enjoy what you made. They may not enjoy curry or Mexican food, whatever. So if you're having 50 people, we tend to make a wide variety of courses and appetizers and whatnot. And that's what we have to think about in our garden for our pollinators. We're trying to put out a banquet of food, so there's a little bit of something for everybody. Mess. Pollinators love a mess. They really do. Mess doesn't mean dirty. We're going to talk about all of these points a little bit more in depth. Organized chaos. Okay. I know that kind of sounds like mess. I'll explain why. It's different. And then water and shelter. So biodiversity. Utilize every type of plant that you can. And that's annuals, perennials, trees, shrubs, native species, and weeds. Let them go. Now, you don't have to turn your yard into something you don't want it to be, but you can make sections of all of this. Doesn't hurt to have an area that you've naturalized or to let the dandelions live in your lawn. Doesn't hurt to have an area that you just kind of, maybe you sow some wildflower seeds, okay? And you just let them happen as they go. You have your annuals, they make you happy. You got your veggies. The bigger the variety of flowers, the bigger variety that you have going, the more they're going to like it. Some of them want to fly nice and high. They'll go into your trees. Others like to stay low or more protected. They're going to do your peppers because they're going to get right in there. So whatever you have going, the more you have, the better. Varied bloom size and structure. Again, not every pollinator can do it. A lot of times you're not going to see butterflies on a small flower like this. They land on it, it bends down, they can't quite get in. They like a flat surface. They like a marigold or a sunflower or an echinacea. Something sturdy, they can land on top of it, then they can control. Your smaller bees are going to get in here. So that's why we want different shaped flowers. Again, that's going to encourage it. That comes with biodiversity. Biodiversity is overall better for the garden. You have very select limited plants. All you grow is tomatoes. You get powdery mildew or aphids come in, they're going to rip through your tomatoes, especially if they're close together. So having more diverse planting, wildflowers and whatnot, you're going to get a much better selection of pollinators. And the biodiversity, as I've said all the way through, it encourages more pollinator types. Again, you have trees, you're going to get squirrels, dirty pollinator. They'll be in there because they want to be in the trees. That's what they're attracted to. So we want to vary our plant time and height. And what I mean by that is exactly the first sentence there in the PowerPoint. I never know if you guys are watching the PowerPoint or watching this. But monoculture is the antithesis of the pollinator.
What does antithesis mean?
The diametrically opposed. Like it's
more simple for me.
They don't like it.
Oh, okay.
Monoculture is the exact opposite of biodiversity. So monoculture is farms. You drive out to Drumheller from Calgary and you will pass kilometers of canola fields, kilometer after kilometer of just canola. Okay, I understand it is a cash crop. We need it. It's important for people's livelihood and our diet and trade, etc., etc. I get that. I absolutely get that. I'm not knocking it. It is terrible for the pollinators. That level of monoculture, there's really only going to be one or two pollinators that can effectively get in there. The rest are hooped. So in that huge area, while it looks pretty and it's yellow and it's bright and we're like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And you're driving, you've got that big blue Alberta sky and the yellow canola fields. It's not that great. It really isn't. It's not diverse at all. So that hurts. Early spring and late fall, crucial times. So early spring, leave your dandelions, let them come up. You can get rid of them after, but leave them for now. And look at perennials for the late fall, sedum, milkweed, annuals for the fall, your sunflowers. Okay, it might take them all season to grow, but then they have these amazing, amazing food sources at the end of the year. So look what you can have throughout the whole season. Pansies, a lot of them are cold tolerant, so we can get them out earlier and they can live longer. So really think about the broad spectrum of the season and how you can have something in timing with, again, using everything, perennials, weeds, trees, whatever, that you can feed the pollinators as they go. It pays to advertise all year, okay? Which means have hanging baskets, okay? The point below that is utilize 3D thinking, okay? So window boxes, don't think of your garden as flat. Look at your fences and put something up. Put sunflowers up that get big. Hang window boxes on the upstairs windows, okay? Get that advert. There's a reason why we're driving down the highway and we see these massive neon signs on the highway that you can't miss. I'm not going to give anybody a shout out here, for various fast food restaurants. And you see the sign and you go, oh, and you're hungry and off you go. That's what the flowers are doing for the pollinators. That's your sign. That's your beacon that there is food here and they will come and they will bring their friends. They really are a team. Fullness is key. I've told this anecdote a few times. I'll say it again for anybody new. Years ago, a neighbor came up to me and asked how I had so much fruit on my tomatoes and veggies growing, and he had nothing. And his property, and again, this isn't a knock, okay? I'm using this to illustrate it. If this made him happy, then it's wonderful. But his property was just a lush green lawn, not one weed in it, because I'd see him out there all the time with Killex. And then up against the back of the house, there were like 3 tomato plants. My yard was filled with clover and dandelions and creeping bell. And then I had sunflowers and I had hanging baskets like this one behind me all over the place. We had pots in any square inch of space that we didn't need to walk in or sit in, had pots, had flowers. I had a tree. I wasn't responsible for that. It was on the property, but I had a flowering tree in the backyard, a crab apple. The pollinators were all over my place. And I tried to get him to see that. And I was like, look at the difference. Like, you can see my yard. It's literally alive. There's nothing happening in yours. And he was like, oh, good point. And then a few days later, I see him out there killing dandelions in his yard. If that's what he wants, great. But he ain't going to get too many tomatoes. So having a full garden of a rich food, go to your friend's house and you're like, oh, come over for supper. And you go over and the table's full. You're like, oh, my God, I love this friend. Like, come over for supper. You go over and there's 3 Doritos on a plate. You're like, okay, not what I was expecting. So that's the analogy, okay? That's how we have to think. Keep plants close together, okay? The pollinators are very happy if it has to go bzz, bzz, or a massive flowering like this one, and it just bounces from flower to flower. It makes their life easier, okay? They don't want to have to gather a little bit of pollen, then fly 3 meters, get to the next flower, gather pollen. Cluster like this in a pot or in your garden all day. That's what they're looking for. Ground cover to upper floor window boxes. Do every creeping thyme, lawn alternatives, always a fantastic choice. Creeping thyme, clover, to huge ones, hanging baskets, or window boxes on your balconies, on your second floor balconies or your windows. Again, you're getting that advertising out there. Pollinators love a mess. They really do. A messy garden isn't a dirty garden. So if you have a tree that is riddled with powdery mildew, go with the common ones. Or you got roses that are riddled with black spot, and the leaves come off in the fall, get rid of those leaves. Okay, don't let them sit for any period of time. 1, the longer they sit, the more they're going to spread the pathogen. 2, the longer they sit, the more bugs. The bugs don't care if it's got rust or whatever else there. They're going to go in it. So get rid of those leaves right away. But anything that isn't dirty, okay, anything that isn't got disease in it or whatnot, make a pile. Okay, just let it just sit there. Put it on your patio if you don't want your lawn to die. Put it on the corner of your patio. They will be in there. Dead wood. I'm talking dead branches in a tree, or maybe some firewood you forgot about and it's sitting on the ground and now it's started to rot. The beetles will be in there. Bees will get in between there. All of these animals will be attracted to that because it's not going to get moved. They know it's relatively safe. A naturalized area, if you can. It can be a small corner of your property. Let the shrubs get overgrown. Don't prune them like I always do in the spring. Don't leave them be. Leave the weeds. Let the weeds sit there. Let the weeds come out. You can always take care of them later. Deadhead them. All right, I've done it. I think we all have. Gone out with a lawnmower, you're deadheading or live heading dandelions. But leave an area to naturalize if you can. The pile of organic material. That can be anything from some grass clippings, some leaves. You don't want to put your kitchen scraps in there. When I say organic material, they'll start to rot or they'll dry out. You can attract a whole other problem. I'm talking about when you go out and you deadhead. Okay, that doesn't necessarily have to go in the compost. You can throw that in the pile. Okay, but any of your wet kitchen organic material, get that in the compost bin. I'm talking garden material when I say that. Utilize mulch. Okay, those ground beetles love mulch. They don't want a thick layer of it. They want to be in the ground, but they can get in that and then they can scurry along the ground and then they can come out at the base of plants. Gives them a bit of protection from things that are trying to eat them. They love the mulch. It insulates them as well. So if it's really hot, some of the bees that live in the ground will go under there. It gives them a bit of protection, a bit of shelter. Small openings and holes are perfect for the solitary bees. A lot of bees, they'll utilize something else. They'll, did I bring up a bee house? I think I might have a bee house somewhere. There's a bee house somewhere behind. Oh, no, that's a butterfly house. I brought up 2 butterfly houses and no bee house. Bee houses. But bee houses, normally they're bamboo, yay long, and the solitary bees climb in them. It's just a little bee hotel.
What's a solitary bee?
Solitary bee, leaf cutter or masons.
So they like to be alone?
They're not in a hive.
They don't do hives.
Nope, they don't do hives. They're lone wolf.
No.
Yeah. They're like, I'm cool enough, man. I don't need a hive. I don't need to be part of your group, man. But they play well with others.
Yeah.
Okay, they're like the introvert. They'll go out and they'll land on this, and if a honeybee is on this, they'll get along just fine. Like, hey, you do you, man, I'm doing me. Where the honeybee goes back to its friends and does a little dance in the hive and tells the other honeybees where to go, the mason bee just goes home by itself, puts on a little bit of Netflix, makes a cup of tea. That's how I like to picture it anyway. Well-amended soil is great for the beetles. Those ground beetles, they don't want to waste all of their energy trying to dig through the clay. So having that well-amended soil, they'll burrow in it and they'll help aerate it. They'll dig little tunnels and whatnot. And again, they'll pop out and run up your plants looking for food. So having a bit of a mess in the garden isn't always a bad thing. And again, you don't have to leave your whole garden messy. I'm not advocating that. I don't do that. Okay, I don't do that. That would drive me nuts. But a few messy areas, that's okay. You know when you're cleaning your house and you move the clutter all over the table to one concise pile here? That's what I'm talking about. Yes. There's my analogy. Yeah. So you come in and it's been a long week and people have thrown things everywhere and whatnot, and you go, I need to pick up. So you take like 3 jackets off the back of the chairs and then you put the 3 jackets together and put them over the back of one chair. It looks better. It's the same mess, but it just looks better. That's all we're doing. Yeah. Organized chaos. So nature and pollinators abhor a vacuum, okay? They do not want your flowers spaced like this. They want them like this. They don't want the bare ground or have to travel. Like they come to your place for one sunflower and they're like, okay, thanks for that. Then they got to go like all the way across the road, which, you know, it's not far for us, but these guys are this big, okay? And they got to go all the way there to get more pollen. They want cluster. They want things tight. They don't care what it looks like. Okay, bit of chaos. Design, we always go big plants in the back, medium, low. That's how we design our pots, thriller, filler, spiller. We do all of that because that aesthetically pleases us. Now that works for the pollinators. Pollinators could care less. Mm-hmm. They really do not care what order the plants are in as long as they're close together.
That's like the mall. Like, I don't want to go to 6 stores and drive to each store. Yep. I just want to go to a mall and have everything in one spot.
That's perfect analogy. Yeah, I'm stealing that. Turn your garden into Market Mall. And if a plant dies, it's like one of those stores that close, but exactly. Another one will open. If there's a space, it can be filled. Okay, you might have a rocky area in your garden. You're like, oh, I can't grow anything there. Stick a pot there. Like literally buy a plastic pot, stuff some annuals in it, put it there. They're bright, they're colorful, make you happy. Pollinators will love you for it. So we can easily fill spaces. We can have chaos, mess, and organization. And I know that sounds completely contrary, okay, but it can be done. You know how I always say, try new things, okay? Try something, plant something, do something, grab a plant you've never planted before. That's a little bit of chaos, okay? You don't know how it's going to perform. You don't know exactly what it's going to do. You don't know if you've got the lifestyle to deadhead this whole thing or if you can just clump it and cut it back. Go for it. Try it. The pollinators, again, don't care. They're going to be very happy that you tried something new. You might do it and you might get more pollinators in your garden and suddenly you go, wow, my tomato yield increased because I put marigolds in front of them, okay? And the funny thing is, honeybees love marigolds, but they do not like tomatoes, but the other pollinators will be attracted to the buzz, okay? So simply by clustering things together, we can actually increase what's happening and it can be somewhat organized. There can be a plan. It just might not look totally linear, okay? And that's the fun part of gardening. Have some chaos. Varied heights, plant supporting plants, companion planting, all of that. Okay, that's what we want. I hang hanging baskets. Sometimes I move them. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I thought this one would look good there. I don't really like it. I'm moving it over here. They don't care. They're like, oh, now it's over there, and away they go that way. So you can move stuff around. You can play with it. Or if you find an empty spot, like I said, hang another basket. Okay, have fun with it. And all pollinators play well with each other. I've seen a sunflower at the end of the year, a head like this, big head like me, and it's got butterflies and bees on it, all scurrying around. There's ants running up and down the stem. They all get along. They're all doing a separate thing. There's enough for everybody, and away they go. Pollinators have got it figured out. Water. Water is life. And I had to bring this up because this year, water restrictions. Okay, I'm going to quickly address this. If you want some more information on water restrictions, you can visit our website. You can go to our homepage. We understand there's a lot of confusion there with water restrictions. So we've tried to simplify it. There are stages. We are going to update that page regularly. We do work with the city. Anybody who knows us knows that we have done a lot of work. We've sat in on round tables with the city of Calgary. We did a water-wise seminar with the city of Calgary. So we are very involved in the process. And we want to really, really help people understand what they can and can't do with water. But it is life and animals need it. And running water, the sound of running water is key. It can be a small little fountain, but that constant trickling noise, we find it very pleasing. It's aesthetic. Okay, that's why people like to lie by rivers or the ocean. That noise, it becomes white noise. It's hypnotic. We love it. But it attracts pollinators. It attracts birds because they go, oh, there is a water source. Every animal needs it. They can't just turn on a tap like us. They have to find a water source. So if they come there and then they're like, oh, well, we can't drink from that fountain, but you have a water source right next to it, then they're going to absolutely love you for it. And I'm just going to quickly run off camera, but I'm still here. I didn't leave you guys. Something like this. Okay, all I have here are some polished river stones. Okay, you take polished river stones like this, even stones from your garden. They don't got to be polished. Okay, I like these for the aesthetic. Okay, put them in it. Wow, did that sound good on the microphone? Should I put that closer? I'm just terrible. A shallow bowl, shallow Tupperware, something like that, filled with stones, water filled to the top. Now the pollinators, they can land on the stones, okay, the bees and whatnot, and now they can get in to the water without the risk of drowning. So you can make your own water supply. The running water will attract them. Now they've got that, they're good to go. Make your own pollinator water station. You can buy them. Honestly, stones in an old Tupperware. You really don't need to buy anything. This is why I'm not in sales. Yeah. Puddles. So yeah, if it rains, I see people sometimes going out there after it's rained with a broom and sweeping the puddles away. The pollinators love it. They really do. It's essential because if it's a puddle, okay, there's a part where it dries out. It's like a mini lake for them. So they can walk up to it and they can get what they need. Okay, they can cool their feet down in the water. There is no risk of them drowning. So puddles are amazing. Droplets on foliage are amazing. Now, we might not be allowed at some point this year. As of right now, we are still allowed to use sprinklers. We're allowed to water any way we want. There are no water restrictions in effect right now. That can change. So it may change, and we may have to water efficiently. So we may have to use root feeders, soaker hoses, and whatnot. So there might not be a lot of water foliage for them, which means we're really going to have to be thinking about putting out little water dishes for them. And you can put out more than one. Okay, you can put them out right next to your flowers. They'll love you for that. Change them regularly. Once that water drips below the rocks, they can't get to it. They want fresh water. You want fresh water. You don't want water sitting there developing algae and becoming a breeding ground for mosquitoes, which are also excellent pollinators. Shout out to mosquitoes. But clean it regularly. All you do, put your hand over it, keep the stones in, drain the water, fill it up with a watering can, take it inside, fill it up from the tap. Whatever. Fresh, clean water, do it on the daily. They're going to love you for it, okay? Shelter. Every animal needs shelter. So we've addressed their food. We've given them food. We've given them a banquet. We've addressed their water. Now what do they want for shelter? Place bee and butterfly homes. Again, I forgot to grab a bee home, but there's butterfly homes. There's ones that you can build with the kids. There's a lot of fun for them. Shelter can also be a naturalized area. It can be an area, that messy area we've talked about, because it'll give them shelter from the rain, it'll give them shelter from the wind, and shelter from the sun. Okay, just like us, sometimes I love to go out in the rain. I really do. I'm from Northern England. I quite enjoy the rain. Other times I'm like, ugh, staring out my window going, what a dreary day. I'm got my tea or my coffee. I'm not going out in that. They're the same. They don't want to be out in the rain, okay? Most of the time they want to be sitting there in their little bamboo thing, watching their Netflix with a cup of pollen tea, okay, waiting to get out after the rain has stopped. I like to create little pictures in my head. This is why I can't meditate. I've tried to meditate, and people are like, focus on a solitary image, and I'm like, I'll think of a flower. Yeah. Now there's a bee visiting the flower. What's he doing? And
he's reading the newspaper.
Exactly. My brain goes into a whole thing. Maybe he's got a little bee family. Yeah. So they need shelter from the elements, much like us. Natural shelter works amazing. So you can put up the houses. They may not use them. They're always going to prefer natural shelter. Okay. It's kind of like, if you think about it, they've evolved for millennia to live in these natural areas, and we're putting up artificial houses. This is more like a hotel, if you will. Sure, hotels can be fun, but we all prefer to go back to our homes. We're more comfortable there. We know what's in the fridge. We know how to find Netflix on the right station. You're not at a hotel trying to figure out how to stream and putting in codes and scanning QR codes, and then get frustrated and you turn the TV off. Then you're angry at the hotel. I might be projecting a little bit there, but I digress.
Suppressed trauma.
Yeah, just a little. It's a webinar / therapy jam session.
Yes, this is what I'm thinking.
Exactly. Old wooden logs, fantastic. Take some firewood, burn some, even pieces that have got charcoal on them, throw them in the corner of the garden. Let them break down. The bugs will get in there, the beetles will get in there, they'll love it. And the beetles will move in, so you don't really have to worry about the bad insects getting in there, because if the bad insects come in, the beetles are like, oh, thank you so much. The bad insects going into a dead log is like DoorDash or something for the beetles. The beetles are like, well, thank you. I can now stay home with my Netflix and grab a bite to eat. They love grasses, okay? They love grass plants because, again, this is where they evolved. The prairies used to be full of grasses. If you're interested more in grasses, little tie in there. Our podcast tomorrow. Is it? Podcast tomorrow. We talked to two excellent friends. I'm not gonna give anything more away. You have to tune in for it. I know Brandy wants to give everything away. So bad. Brandy was fangirling hard. I was too. They're amazing. I'm not giving away anything, but if you want the skinny on grasses, and we're not talking lawn, we're talking prairie grasses, native grasses, you got to check out the podcast tomorrow. But they love live plants like that. They love live plants that they can shelter in, because maybe they can't get home in the storm. Okay, you've been caught in a storm and you deke into a bus shelter or you run into a cafe for a coffee. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for quick emergency shelter. Okay, don't be afraid to help. Brandy, can you go get our friends from the fridge?
Oh, our friends.
Don't be afraid to help. So that picture there, that's my arm. Okay. And I found that fuzzy butt on the ground. I do this multiple times every year. And I found this fuzzy butt in my garden, and she wasn't doing great. She was very tired. She was in full sun. It was parched. It wasn't a good day to be a bee. Thank you. It wasn't a good day to be a bee, but she was still alive, and she was very slowly trying to crawl. Put my hand down. I let her crawl onto my hand. I got her into the shade. I mixed up some sugar water, put some sugar water. She drank it. She started walking up my arm. She was fine. We're doing our thing. She went back down. She had some more sugar water. She sat for a bit and she flew away. She flew away. She didn't walk away. She got her energy back. She just needed a break. Okay, we can help them. Harry and Jenny used to be terrified until they saw how many bees I just picked up off the ground. Now they do it. Little tip. I learned this from Harry. Do not feed them the sugar water in your house, because Harry brought one in and fed it the sugar water. So he mixed up a little bit of sugar water and the bee went drink, drink, drink. And I'm like, no, I have to get a bee out of the house.
Oh, no.
So I had to do that, trap it with the glass and slide the paper under the glass. And then
I'm sure Harry was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, he was like, he was, but not helping. He was laughing his butt off. He thought it was pretty awesome. Get them the sugar water outside. They're very good outside, but they're not going to hurt you. They really. I've landscaped. I've worked in gardens for decades. I can count on one hand the number of times I've been stung by bees. Every single one has been my fault. Okay, every single one. I've grabbed a flower to deadhead it or to clean it up. There was a bee on it. I startled it. It got scared. It stung me. I've put my hand down on them on the ground. I've sat on them. Okay, my fault. I wasn't aware the bee was there. The bee did not come. This flower could be crawling in bees and I would still go in and deadhead it. Okay, I'm slower because I don't want to scare the bees away. But I have zero fear of bees. Absolutely not. You get stung, all right, stings for a little bit. I always feel worse for the bee. Okay, it stings. It's not great. Pick the stinger out, but that bee is dead. Okay, I feel worse for the bee than I do for me. That rhymes too.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to help. And I get it. It takes courage. And I'm not expecting everybody to be out there this summer picking up every bee they see. I get it. But it's totally safe. That's why I included that picture. Stop overusing chemical sprays. Can't say it enough. Chemical sprays for pests don't care what they hit. Okay. They can hurt the bees. Look at using other biological solutions, other ladybirds, praying mantis, the massive lineup of BioLine we have that will take care of any bug you have. There are better ways to do it. Now, sometimes we have to use chemical sprays. I get it. I advocate for that. It's not awesome. Sometimes we hit bugs that we love. Okay. But if we stop using them as much as we do and swap to biologicals, there'll be a lot less damage to the bees. That's all I'm going to say. Supply sugar water. Every once in a while, when you put out your bee bowl, got a Tupperware, you fill it with this, put some sugar on it. Okay, you can sprinkle the sugar on the top like cereal. They will love it. They'll go nuts for it. It gives them a little, perks them up, lets them get about their day. Much like it does for me. Like coffee. When I'm done this coffee, I'm going to eat some chocolate cookies. No word of a lie. They're on the table. That's why I keep looking over there. Okay, keep your garden calm. Now, I'm not saying you can't enjoy your garden. You want to go out and you want to have a garden party, do it. You want to go out, you want to kick the soccer ball around with the kids, do it. Absolutely, have fun in your garden. That's why we have a garden. But the pollinators, they really like it when the garden's quiet. So if I have people at the house and they're running around and Jimmy's in the garden, don't see a whole lot of pollinators. When I'm out in the garden by myself, just putzing away, weeding, deadheading, doing whatever, tons of pollinators. Okay, and that's the difference. So they like it calm. Too much vibration, too much going on. They're like, no thanks, man, and they go somewhere else. So you, if you can, have quiet times in the garden. Bees rarely sting. I already addressed that. Leave weeds until they're done flowering, especially early spring. Okay, once that dandelion flower dies, it doesn't die overnight and then come back as seeds and then spread the seeds. It takes a process. When you see the flower go from that beautiful yellow friend to that wrinkly brown thing, chop it, cut it, dig it out, whatever you got to do. But let it flower first. Leave the blooms. The bees, the butterflies, everything will love you for it. Okay? And clean gently, especially at this time of year. You see people ripping the piles into the garbage. So when I go out to clean my garden and I've got my window piles, normally what I do is with my rake or with my hand, I gently spread the pile out. I let them go. And if you really, really, really want some pollinators in your garden, you can come visit us. And what we have here, okay, is a leafcutter bee, okay? And I will come around to the camera. We have to keep them cold so they're dormant. Otherwise, I actually would genuinely be releasing bees in the upstairs offices, and I would not have too many friends. So I've done this before, and they have hatched in my hand, but I really don't want them to.
Yeah.
And that's up a bit, and that's what it is.
Maybe can you go a little closer?
Here, let me change my hand then.
Yeah, that might be better. Up. Yeah, and closer. Nice.
So those are bee cocoons, okay? And there are bees living in there. There are live bees. They're asleep. They're in hibernation right now. And you can see, come on, buddy. I got to get them back in. There might be one, and we can see if we can see inside it. You can.
It's a little tough.
Yeah, but there's a bee in there, okay? And I can feel the moisture building up on it, which means it's warming up in my hand. So it's going right back in the cold Tupperware, because if it wakes up too soon, thank you, Brandy. If it wakes up too soon, it's going to be like me. Wake up in the morning and there's no coffee ready to go. I'm grouchy. Still wouldn't sting me. They've hatched in my hand. I was doing it on, I believe, CTV, and I had them in my hand, and the cameraman was trying to get the shot, and it's warm, and there's a lot going on, and next thing you know, I got 3 bees crawling across my hand. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to let these go in the tree lot. But it was pretty fun. I've done it with ladybirds before. Pulled out a bag of ladybirds, and you got ladybirds running all over your hand. The moment it warms up. But we can start putting those bees in our gardens. Okay, you want to attract bees to the gardens? Just put the bees in the garden. You don't need a hive. You don't need anything special for them. They'll take care of it, and they love to pollinate the natives. They love to pollinate your blueberries, your cranberries. They may take a chunk of your leaf. They may find a broadleaf like this sunflower leaf, and they may cut a piece off so they can wrap up a little cocoon for themselves. That's a fair trade. I'm willing to make that trade. So I want to thank you so much for being here on a Saturday morning and letting me talk about a subject I love, which is pollinators. And I would love to hear any questions, anecdotes, stories, whatever you got.
Yes. Okay. So let's start on Facebook, because Hannah Lore commented, what is the best plant to plant for pollinators? I guess that's a bit of a tough question because there's so many different kinds of pollinators, right?
The best plant to plant is as many different plants as you can.
Diversity.
Diversity.
No.
Exactly.
Diversity.
There is no one plant that you can plant. Now, I'll give this, because I hate answering a question like that when somebody is looking for an answer. Hanging baskets are fantastic. Okay, they're up high, and again, you can do diversity. So there's fuchsias, there's begonias, we got pansies. So there's a ton of diversity, but they're up high, so the bees see them. Okay, they're flying along. My tomatoes are in a backyard surrounded by a fence. Now, the bees obviously can fly over fences; they'll see them. But the more I have to bring the bees there in the front, the better it is. So things up tall to start with, and then spread out, the bees will find you.
Love it. Our next question comes from Instagram by Claire Nix, who says, how can we ensure the wildflower mix that we purchase doesn't introduce invasive species?
So we can't, but what we do is we buy it from companies we trust. Mm-hmm. So great question. One, if it was a noxious weed, it would be illegal to do it. The other one is that all of these companies are trusted. And then if you're like, I don't know, which absolutely doubt everything, love it, question everything. If you read, they should have a list of ingredients on them. So we have the lawn solution. Does this have the ingredients on it? For complete planting and growing instructions, it's got the website. This one has, so I'll show you, make it easy. I'll come around this side this time. Tell me if we can see it, Brandy.
Yeah.
Has the ingredients, the recipe, the blend, I guess is the better word, right on it. But you can trust, you can trust us. We wouldn't do it. And the companies we use. So Mother Nature's local Alberta company outside of Tabor, and then West Coast Seeds, Canadian company out of, I believe, Vancouver. Maybe Burnaby, I'm not entirely sure. Delta, that's close to those two cities I mentioned, isn't it?
Kind of.
Okay, we'll say yes.
Yes.
So we use these Canadian companies, and they're not going to put anything invasive or noxious in there. It would kill their sales, and there would be some legality issues. So you can absolutely trust that, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Next question from Patricia. Oh, it's about lawn alternative. How do you apply it, and do you have to cover the whole lawn?
No. Again, read the instructions, because I grabbed this one as an example. There are a absolute number. There's some already pre-grown, creeping thyme, sedum turf, whatnot, that you can just literally plug and play. Always read the instructions, but it's very, very rare that you have to plant these like a regular seed. You're not going to have to go through your entire lawn dibbing and putting a seed in and filling it like we do with our peppers, not tomatoes, when we start them in the little pods. A lot of these, you're going to put it down like lawn seed. You're going to take it, you're going to scatter it down. Now, with that being said, you will increase your chances of proper germination if you do a thin skiff of topsoil or coir or something over the top. Protects them from drying out in the sun, so it holds moisture on them. It also acts as a barrier from the birds coming down and being like, oh, thank you so much for that treat. So you will increase your chances. Is it necessary? No. But for a little bit of extra work, half an hour, 20 minutes extra work to significantly boost your chances, I do it. That's all I'm going to say with that.
Next question over on our website, goldenacre.ca. Thanks for tuning in on the website. That's so great.
Yeah.
They were asking about the bees with the sugar water.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you said that the sugar water can be used like some of the time, right? Is it like just every now and then? Like, you shouldn't exclusively feed with sugar water?
I wouldn't. A couple of reasons. It can make a hell of a mess.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, you want to encourage the bees to find their own stuff.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so there are times when honeybee farmers will harvest the honey. Now, the bees don't have enough to eat because it's a hard year. Maybe it's a drought year and they can't get pollen, or it's a late spring and nothing is blooming in time. And they have to put syrup in the hives because we took all the honey and the bees have to eat the syrup. Now, we don't want to do that all the time because we want them to come out and pollinate. We want them to do their job. So if it's like a particularly long, hot stretch and you know that the bees are probably going to be tired, there isn't a lot of water, creeks are drying up and whatnot, yeah, every once in a while, maybe put out a regular water and a sugar water. But it's more of kind of like a treat, a little energy boost. I wouldn't do it all the time. Plus, if you constantly put out sugar water, you do run the risk of attracting ants. Again, ants aren't going to hurt your plants, but a lot of us don't like them. They're beneficial. I don't mind ants. A lot of us don't like them, but if ants clue in that there's sugar water, you better believe you're going to see ants. So a little bit of sugar water occasionally helps keep down the ants, helps keep the pollinators what they're doing. It's just a nice little treat for the little fuzzbutts.
Yeah, fuzzbutts. I love that little addition. But that's it.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Love doing these. Love connecting with you. I love the fact that people tune in to find out how we can make the planet better for things like pollinators. I know, and I found out so many cool things.
Yeah.
You know, I found out about the moth. I found the good news on colony collapse. Like, we're pulling in some things. I'm not going to talk about the bad news. We all know that. Okay, I'm talking about the good things. And we heard colony collapse years ago, at least in the industry. And there were a lot of people who were very scared of it. Like, they were thinking, oh my God, we are going to lose bees. To the point where some companies were actually developing tech drone bees that they could program to fly around to the flowers because that seemed easier than just saving the damned bees. But we pulled together and we started paying attention. And shout out where shout out is due. There are a couple of companies that used to spray their plants with neonotics, which are hella toxic to every bug, especially bees. And they started phasing out their use of neonotics. Okay, so as a whole, we are moving in the right direction. We're realizing that maybe our hubris got a little too much, and maybe we do need to thank these little selfless critters. So I'm always happy to report on that. So have a wonderful Saturday wherever you are, everybody. I'm going to go have lunch with my sister. I haven't seen her all week. It's been very busy, and I'm looking forward to it. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and, maybe pick up a bee and give it some sugar water from time to time. See you all next week. Bye, everyone.